Over 2,000 years ago, Chinese mathematicians laid down the foundations for the zodiac, an endless carousel of 12 different animals that would continue through time. However, in 2015, the humble sheep has had to step aside because this year was truly the year of the budget smartphone. Welcome back to Richard Reviews. As you can guess, today I want to talk about smartphones, but not the high-end, not the fancy, not the iPhone 6Ss or the Google Nexuses. Google Nexi? Last year we saw really how generic high-end devices have become. Differentiation at the higher end of the market has become next to impossible. I'm far more concerned about the budget aspect of the market, especially when we look at the economic factors. That yes, while there is a large part of the Western audience who is very interested in these high-end flagship devices and will upgrade every year, the budget smartphone category is going to be way more appealing worldwide. Selling a £600 phone to a couple of Western kids is great, but capturing a market of 3 to 4 billion Asians and Africans who are on a tighter budget and cannot necessarily afford a 6S but want to get a smartphone anyway, that's going to be far more lucrative and is going to be far more indicative of what the future holds. I speak as someone today who's only ever bought budget devices. And let's have a rundown of some of those phones that I've owned in the past. The first phone I actually ever owned was a Nokia 3310, and everyone knows how impressive that phone was. What was even more impressive, that I actually had this phone when I was 10 and I didn't manage to break it. I then moved on to a plethora of rubbish phones. The Nokia 3650, a terrible phone, awful keypad idea. God knows what they were thinking there. The Sega My-C, I believe it was called. It was a flip phone. It was absolutely tiny, and I'm quite a big guy. I'm 6 foot tall, and with my giant hands, it was absolutely useless. It also had a proprietary charger that broke all the time. I then moved on to a Samsung Duke, if I remember correctly. Again, really bad phone. Good music player. Awful phone. The keypad on it was so small, I had to teach myself how to T9 text just because it was so unusable otherwise. And then I think I got my first smartphone, so I got the HTC Tattoo. Oh, no, in fact, I actually had before that, I had the W850. Amazing phone. That was such a good phone. It was a music player done right in a phone. It was very basic, but it did the job so well. And then the first smartphone I ever had was the HTC Tattoo, and this was just diabolically bad. There was nothing good about it. It was tiny. It broke if you tried to send too many texts to a person. It was just so awful. And then I moved on to a HTC Desire. Again, there was nothing amazingly bad about this, but my God, the storage space was awful. Following that, I had a Sony Xperia SP. And this wasn't the worst phone in the world, but that LED was such an awful idea. It effectively meant that no matter what you were doing, this LED would always be disrupting you, just blinking around in the background. It never seemed to understand that, enough was enough. It didn't need to keep going. The thing with budget devices is that you can always accept trade-offs. You know that when you're paying less, you get less. But these phones never felt like that. They felt old. They felt like a device that was not up to scratch, that had been deliberately designed to not be good so that the bigger brother of whatever phone you were looking at was more appealing. In 2015, I think that was the first time we actually really broke that trend, and budget phones were just good phones that happened to be cheaper. So this year, when it came to upgrading my phone and I was looking for a budget option, I chose the Asus Zenphone 2. And having been hands-on with it for about 6 months now, I must say I am genuinely impressed by this device. Firstly, it really has a full feature set that actually goes further than plenty of much more expensive phones. It has a huge 3GB of RAM, a solid processor from Intel, and a 5.5-inch 1080p display. And this stuff actually makes it feel responsive and good to use, which is a massive step up from smartphones in the past. Its Zen UI skin is actually responsive and useful. It comes with good speed features, which is the first time for me ever saying that about a skin on top of Android. It even comes with a removable back and dual SIM card slots, which you will find in pretty much no high-end phones, and micro SD, again something else that tends to be lacking. And this is on top of the fact that it actually has a decent amount of storage available for quite a low price. And in years gone past, things like NFC, which might have been overlooked, have not been. We have an NFC reader, we have a decent camera. Admittedly, this is one of the areas where it's not on par with the big boys, but it's certainly good enough. Hopefully you'll get to see some test pictures here now. Hell, even the battery life is startlingly good on this phone. And while I'm heaping praise on the Zenphone 2, the phone that I bought, it's worth pointing out that the Moto G, the version 3 that came out in 2015, the Sony M4 as well, and pretty much everything that's been released by OnePlus, these have all received absolutely rave reviews for being quality budget phones. The question is what we're going to see going forward. Is 2015 just a blip for the budget smartphone? What we're going to see is technology moving down the chain, and all of those high-end features are going to start proliferating into lower-end devices. That's the first thing that we're going to see. The second thing we're going to see is that the build quality and sort of silly features in high-end phones are going to be massively played up. How much do I care about the plastic design of my phone if I'm actually just going to put it in a protective case? There are plenty of people who love the feel of their phone in their hand, but there are also plenty of people like me who just don't trust themselves to not drop their phone. But if you're anything like me, those design choices and whatever fancy materials they're using aren't going to matter much, because my phone is far too important to not go in a protective case. This is how I actually use my phone day to day, especially because I need a little flap so that when I leave it on the desk at work while I'm eating or whatever else, I can still see what I'm watching. And I'm far more concerned with having good technology in the phone than I am with the leather or aluminium or glass that surrounds it. But it'll be fascinating to see what comes out in the future. Asus have already announced a new Zenphone with an optical zoom feature, which could be really, really cool. Anyway, thanks for tuning into this long and rambly video. If you like this video, please like and subscribe. And tune in next time when I will probably talk a lot more about something that you don't really care about. Have a lovely day there, guys. Cheers. Bye.